And welcome back, everyone, for the first spoiler cast that I'm doing, or spoiler review, whatever, for this year. I was going to do What If. Quite frankly, I finished that show, and I finished that show. But this is for Echo, season 1, for the all 5 episodes. Should have been 6, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So, as always, I'm Mitch. You can follow me on the socials at 692 tweets in pics. I can't remember the other ones. It's in the link tree in the description anyway. But it wouldn't be a spoiler cast, spoiler review, if it wasn't for Jared from the Nerd Academy podcast joining us again.
Hey, first Spoilercast of 2024 on CBC. Very exciting. Yeah, I have a lot to unpack with how Echo was structured. I think it's very interesting. Good. I think it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. It's I think I can compare Echo to Book of Boba Fett in that way, where it's like, I love this show. I love what this show has to say. I love so much about it. I still don't know how I would restructure it. I just think it needs restructured. And we'll get into all of that.
You finish what you're gonna say. We'll get into it.
Well, I was saying I'm happy to be here, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I was just gonna do my plugs. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Plug.
You guys know Nerd Academy podcast. That's where I'm at. Primarily, 12 subscribers away from 500. Please, God, push us over the line. There's actually so we did an episode called "What Happened to the DCEU." Is kind of
I haven't watched it, but I've seen it. Yeah.
This kind of like eulogizing what was that universe, and I had some buck wild rankings. My final ranking of the DCEU.
What was your number one?
So it was like the tiers. So
like S tier, A tier.
Yeah, and it, like the format I found on Tier Maker, like it was very funny. It was like S tier was like a pure shot of yellow sunlight, and like the bottom one was kryptonite. It was very cute and funny. But like my top 3 ended up being like the Harley Quinn trilogy of like Suicide Squad, Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad. And
you had a Suicide Squad up there?
I did, and I very much was like, listen, I understand that this movie is awful. I have so much fun every time I watch it. I love it. I do sincerely love that movie, and no one will ever like. It's not that I need to be convinced that it's bad. I know that it's bad. You will never make me not love watching it.
It's because of Will Smith, isn't it?
It's for a lot of things. And honestly, one of them is not. It's not just like the Jared meme of Will Smith is in a thing, so Jared's gonna love it. It's not Wild Wild West. Which I think, but I do love Wild Wild West and Suicide Squad in the same way, where it's like, I earnestly just love this movie and it makes me happy. But because of my defensive Suicide Squad and my buck wild rankings, one of our regular viewers and patrons, Ray Clausen, was like, I was like, after hearing Jared like go to the mat for Suicide Squad, I kind of want to see like a top 10 comic book movies episode. So we hit 500 subscribers and some more patrons, but 500 subscribers is the big one. We're going to try to do a top 10 comic book movies episode to celebrate that. So get on over there, subscribe. Also, I'm on a Star Wars RPG show called Ionized Bastards. Think your Dimension 20s, Critical Roles, that format, but it's Star Wars. We're on season 2. It takes place a couple years after the Battle of Jakku, a couple years before like the events of like the Mandalorian take place. It's a lot of fun. We're 2 episodes into season 2. I am having such a good time getting back to these characters, getting back to the format. We changed game systems between seasons, so now we're using SW5E. So we're basically just playing D&D, but with like Star Wars flavor. The second episode, in my opinion, is the best episode we've ever recorded.
Nice.
So I highly recommend that. And then Epic Confrontations, which is a Star Wars trivia show I compete in. It's kind of
strong word.
It's I am 4-2 with 3 KOs. I am at the point where anytime someone tries to impugn my record, I'm just going to reply with numbers. I am 4-2. 3 of those wins are by way of knockout.
But against Alden, it's what?
Against Alden, I have lost to him once on the record.
I've seen the record. Yeah.
We played one on the record match that he won narrowly. We played an exhibition match about exclusively Star Wars Legends that he won narrowly. He won
Inch or a mile, baby, don't matter.
He won the Hyperspace Gauntlet, which was our version of like the Free for All or the Royal Rumble. And then there was allegedly an off the books, spontaneous, inebriated match that happened on the night of Thanksgiving that may or may not.
I can't confirm that happened. I can't confirm.
Mitch may have watched it happen live and an unlisted YouTube stream because Alden and I got into a drunk Twitter argument on Thanksgiving about who would win in trivia.
Oh, that was funny.
It was fantastic. It was a great match though. But no, my record is 4-2, 3 knockouts, and yeah, no, it's really good. There's going to be a match coming out soon. It's going to be a double header. It's going to be one of our first #1 contender matches. We're getting close to a Star Wars champion. And the undercard for that match is actually going to be like a Geekverse exhibition. So it'll be Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future, all your franchises except for Harry Potter for obvious reasons. It was a decision the people he brought on to write the questions kind of we made an editorial decision there. But yeah, it's going to be really fun. It's going to be between Kelly Knox, who is a prolific writer in the geek space. She works for StarWars.com. She's written some Marvel stuff. She's wonderful. And then my co-host Travis Grossman from the Nerd Academy podcast will be playing in that one. So go watch all of those when they're out. I'm very excited, and I'm going to be on the desk for the nerd match or for the Geekverse match. I will be co-hosting that with Eli. So tune in.
Very nice. Yeah.
I know I get to be on the other side of the fucking gauntlet. Sorry.
First
one back. I already said the F word.
I didn't even hear it, man. That's just demonetized if I can't be bothered to edit it. Well. Actually, no, wait. It was after 30 seconds. I don't know if YouTube still does that. I just hope and pray it does. But right. Echo.
How long you had that one in the chamber?
About 6 seconds.
Oh, well, good for you.
I honestly never even thought about it. That was purely off the cuff.
I'm really glad that you weren't sitting on that. Like, oh, I can't wait to go echo.
No.
I'm glad you weren't sitting on it. Spontaneous, it's very funny. Spontaneous, it's very funny. If you had it in the chamber, the longer you're charging that one, the less funny it would be.
Because I was trying to think of how do I make an Avatar joke, apart from the obvious, she took away Kingpin's bending at the end. But
that's funny.
Echo and Avatar don't really like the names. You can't really merge it with, and it sound okay-ish. But yeah, so Kingpin can't bend anymore. That's
no, he can't.
The main crux of the show. Poor guy.
He didn't seem very flexible to begin with, so I don't think he was bending much to begin with.
I don't know. He got pegged by Vanessa. I'm going to say it right now.
Okay. I can't drop an F-bomb, but Mitch went straight to pegging. Oh God!
I mean, I don't know if YouTube demonetizes out. I guess I'll find out now. But it's a TVMA.
Armin's going to be like, "Hey, Mitch, when the Echo review get demonetized?" It's like, well, Jared dropped an F-bomb in the first minute and a half, and then I started talking about Vanessa pegging the Kingpin. So, other than that, I don't know why.
Yeah. Anyway, the structure of this show. I'm just going to say it needs to be 6 episodes. 5 wasn't enough. Back when Hunger Games and Harry Potter and like
Twilight, when they were doing like the series of books where like the last book is split into 2 movies thing, there was always that conversation about how, part 1 of the finale is the first and second act condensed into one film across a 3-act structure, and then the second movie is all the third act. It is go 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 go. Again, as much as I don't like to like talk about Harry Potter these days, like I think the Deathly Hallows is the perfect example. It's not to say that Deathly Hallows Part 1 is bad, but like it is like this slow burn, like setup movie, and then Deathly Hallows Part 2, like you press play and you don't stop. You are blitzing that entire third act of the book across 3 acts of a movie. Like the Battle of Hogwarts makes up, like I'd probably say like 70% of that movie's run, depending on when you say the battle starts, I guess. But that's how I felt about the last 2 episodes of Echo. I felt like the 4th episode was the beginning phase of like this is the first 2 chunks of the book, where like all of it is like Echo getting her emotional and personal affairs in order and figuring out what she wants to do and who she wants to be. And then that whole 5th episode was her acting on it. And it like I said, it's just really bizarrely paced. And I think that truly, like, and I said this, I was like, maybe Moon Knight would have been better as a binge. I think Moon Knight would have been best as a movie. But man, I'm glad Echo was a binge. I think that like all of that setup in episode 4, ending the way it does, having to wait a week for like this really brisk, like I really thought I was only 15 minutes into the episode by the time
because it gets
the ancestors
every episode
Fisk.
as it goes on, it just gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter.
Yeah,
like, you lose 20 minutes from the 1st to the 5th. No, it's kind of crazy.
It was that was wild to me.
That I feel like all the stuff they cut out is completely unironically here a memory gauntlet, and I think that's what this show needed.
It did feel like it felt like an abridged memory gauntlet when she got to like talk to her mom.
The entire like from literally episode 1 to 4 and even bits of 5, it's like teasing that she's going to be doing this memory gauntlet with the past avatars of her family and bloodline.
# memory gauntlet.
Exactly.
No, for sure. And I will say, I really did appreciate how much care it took to set the table for Echo in the first episode and a half. Like I really did because that was something I was curious about. Was like, it's not, like the show might pick up a demo that is not as invested in MCU stuff, but sees, a crime thriller starring, this indigenous woman, and like how do like the just the I don't want to boil Aliqua Cox down to her disability, and I don't want to say that like her being like a stunt-based action actor who is disabled is gimmicky, because I don't want to say
but
I think it flattens it. But there is like okay, I want to see how you do this. I want to see how you do like Deaf with a prosthetic leg as like an action brawler. I want to see how you John Wickify this person. And I think there was definitely a group of people who were probably appealed to by that. I think there were some people who, again, just like the glitz and the convoluted nature of the MCU, and I don't say convoluted as like as a pejorative. It's just, it's like a comic book. There's a lot going on all the time. So the fact that she is a character spun out of a spinoff about Hawkeye, in a show that is, again, I don't want to do the, where's Daredevil, and She-Hulk, and then we get to Daredevil, and now it's all where's Punisher. I don't want to do that, but like you do have a show that just by virtue of like release slates is setting the table for Daredevil Born Again. That I was like, well, how are you going to like guide the audience in here for folks who are just coming in because they thought this crime thriller looked cool, and went, I'm here for a very unique palette for action, and I'm here for crime drama stuff. How do you guide them through how we got here with Maya? And I really did appreciate the mix of old and new, tapping into what we saw before at Hawkeye, tapping into new explorations of her origin. It was great. It was really good. I really did like that. I loved that first episode. And I would say on top, I really did like this show. I enjoyed it a lot. That's like why I use the Book of Boba Fett comparison, where it's like, I really do like what this show is doing. It's the how that kind of boggles my mind. And I don't know how, if I had the keys to the castle, how I would structure it. I do not know. Like, it took me years to figure out. I think you add an episode of Book of Boba that goes between From the Desert Comes a Stranger and the finale, or between Return of the Mandalorian and From the Desert Comes a Stranger. You need an extra episode between one of those two episodes. And I think you put it between In the Name of Honor and From the Desert Comes a Stranger.
I've always found with these Disney Plus shows, if you're going to add one in, it's always between the penultimate and last. It's consistently there, and that's consistently where they always stumble, for lack of a better word or phrase, whatever. But it seems to be always right there for whatever reason, for however the production is. It's always, no matter what show, it could be Marvel, could be DC, or Star Wars, even not DC. It's always right in that penultimate bit.
Yeah,
it's always where it should go for me, anyway.
Yeah, well, I think it also, part of it is that, like, consistently across Disney Plus, and again, it's just a weird quirk, Mando season 3 is a great example. People love The Spies. People loved The Spies, and it's a phenomenal episode of television. And then people were like, okay, come time for the return, the finale. And it's another prime example. The WandaVision penultimate into WandaVision. I think the only show that really has sidestepped that has been like Loki and Andor. Not that you would know what the finale of Andor was like.
Excuse me, I watched it. I watched all of it.
You did I have fully been convinced that you never finished Andor.
I honestly, I can't remember.
There was so much bass in your voice. I'll have you know, I finished Andor, I think. Good guess.
Well, I said it, and in my brain, kind of, I went searching for that file and generally can't find it. I couldn't tell you. Apart from the guy that hits the anvil because he's the clock, I could not tell you a single thing that happened in that.
Because he's the clock.
He is the clock. Man's his Big Ben.
Oh my gosh.
I tell you, like, someone gets hit in the face with like a brick or something at a funeral march. That's half of what I can tell.
We don't have time to do an Andor season recap.
But
but you're right. There is like Martha,
certain.
She's cremated, she's turned into a brick, and then Brasso hits an Imperial in the face with it when she gives her own eulogy.
I'm certain I finished that show. Reluctantly. I'm certain
we're not doing this today. We're not doing
we
this
are not
today.
starting season
I'm
2
so tired of you making me defend Andor. I'm
not making you do a damn thing. That is purely all on you. Do not project that onto me.
It's just that you don't give Andor its flowers, and the people who give Andor too many flowers drive me insane. So I end up in this like weird catch-22 where it's like I have to, like, almost as like an intellectual exercise, remind myself that I did in fact love that show. It's just the people who meat ride it drive me insane.
Well, but I meat riding it, so leave me be. Leave me in peace. Anyway,
but yeah,
I see now. I completely forgot where we were.
We're talking about like the weird quirk of like the penultimate into the finale episodes for Disney Plus shows having this weird, like there's always like, it feels like you skipped a step somewhere along the way.
I generally think it's because they keep trying to make these as a movie and not as a TV show. I think that is a byproduct of that mentality.
I
Now,
agree
we
with you
know
on
they're
that.
shifting away from that, at least in the Marvel side, because we're now having showrunners and pilots and all this sort of stuff. So hopefully that flips away from that consistent criticism. But
Yeah. No, I
we'll
do.
see.
I do very much agree with that. I think that, and granted, like that's not a problem the Star Wars shows have had. Aside from like the
No,
one that was
no, they
clearly
haven't.
meant to be a movie with Obi-Wan Kenobi, which like I can take or leave it being a movie. I love the show as it is. I think it do you
I
think
suppose
still it's
Boba Fett as well had it, didn't it? That's supposed to be a movie, right?
there was talk about a Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
It's
Wasn't it
more
there was there's, from what I remember anyway, I don't know how true any of it was. There was a Boba Fett movie in the works that then became The Mandalorian, but then they went back to the Boba Fett movie.
so it as I understand it, you're not wrong. There was just a whole lot of like they had an idea for a Boba Fett movie that
Yeah.
then slowly changed into the Mandalorian. It wasn't so
Yeah.
much that it was like, oh, like this was just going to be the Boba Fett show. Like you could see in concept art that like some early versions of it, it was just Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
eventually they went the direction of doing Din Djarin, where like there was a Boba Fett movie being considered, and it was going to be Josh Trank. May he rest in peace.
That's no, yeah.
Which again, those are one of those what ifs. I know like there was like Obi-Wan was supposed to be a movie. They were very confident in making it a film. And then like
Solo
Solo
happened, yeah.
Disney sent Solo to die, which I'm never not going to be angry about because I love
I'll
that
be honest,
movie.
you could have put that movie anywhere and it wouldn't have done well.
I think you're dead wrong.
I'm
Here's my hot
surprised.
take. Here's my
I'm
hot take.
surprised.
Here's my hot take. I think there's an alternate timeline where they put Solo out around what had become the new Star Wars time of year, Christmas. If you drop Solo Christmas of 2018, Aquaman is not $1 billion movie. Truly. If you don't put that movie out to compete with Avengers Infinity War and Deadpool 2 and The Incredibles 2, like those where it's
Hold on, didn't Aquaman come out around the Star Wars movie?
It came out the same year as Solo, but it was 2018. So it had the box office basically to itself.
I could have sworn Aquaman was against something.
No, its only real competition was Into the Spider-Verse, which famously did not do.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, yeah.
It was a critical darling, as it should be. It's an incredible film, but like it was live action Aquaman movie versus like an animated Spider-Man movie. People were kind of trepidatious about.
Yeah.
So I truly think you pit Solo against Aquaman. Solo, maybe it's not as much of like a box office hit as like the sequel trilogy and Rogue One, but it's going to put bigger numbers up than Aquaman.
I mean, Thor's bigger than 3, right? I suppose.
But
it might have it.
But all of that to say,
it does tie in somehow. I promise.
Yeah, all of that to
it's
say,
all relevant.
There is something weird about the structure of Echo. I think for me, I think the thing that like really boggled my mind and something that I think a sixth, what would be the 5th episode, adding 6 total to the show, would be. I hate to do the whole I don't understand how this person's powers work thing.
That's entirely my reason for why it needs an extra episode and for it to be a memory gauntlet.
Well, because for me, because they like the way they frame it initially is that Chula gets visions. You know, her daughter, Maya's mother, can heal. And whenever Echo's prosthetic gets lodged in the train connector, it seems as though they're giving her super strength.
Yeah.
Pry it out. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then it turns into more of like a spiritual, almost I am all the Jedi. Like your lineage runs through you. You are the culmination of all of these women throughout our history, which again is beautiful. Like I'm not here to impugn what they
No,
were
because
going.
the idea itself, I really like it. It's the same as that. It goes back to the first episode because I enjoyed the first episode and how they put everything together. I hate how they edited it. There was just skips and there was no indication of a skip in time or whatever. It was
Yeah,
just
they kind
bang,
of begin
bang,
it with
bang, bang, bang.
they kind of begin it with 2007, and then a lot of stuff happens, and then 2023.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, like I can follow along. I'm enjoying what you're presenting. I'm just not hot on how you presented it to me. Like
Yeah,
baby's first PowerPoint. Not that it's that bad, but
yeah,
it
but
should have been a lot smoother than it was. But it goes in with the power set because the entire time you're seeing like flashbacks of people from her lineage,
yeah,
and
which was
they're all
incredible,
doing.
so good.
It was great, right? But they all did individual things. Not a single one of them had any indication of being able to do multiple things. Then we get to Maya, and then at the end where she's in the suit and everyone's behind her, and it's it's that either you can make the Avatar comparison, you make the Star Wars comparison, but
Yeah,
she suddenly can do everything. And well, what they never say what she can actually do. It's just seemingly whatever she needs to at the time.
yeah, well,
It's too
absolutely.
vague, right?
It
And
is
for
really vague, and again, not to be like, well, why didn't the story explicitly tell me what it was trying to do? There is also like a weird ambiguity that
yeah,
like I
yeah,
don't know was intentional with like when Fisk opens his eyes, are there like 7 Choctaw people in front of him? Or is it just
no.
Maya beating his ass and then doing like the like and then
Well, I assume
memory
like her
gone
sister and
Fisk?
grandmothers. That's that. At least there's 3 of them. But
Yeah, but like, is he seeing like the like the one with the rifle and like the one doing the
yeah,
sports thing? Like, is he seeing them too, or is it just like, oh, like through this lineage, like these women are able to like beat the hell out of these goons? And again, I do not have a problem with that. I think again,
no,
I love that idea of like of this like tight family unit and like manifesting it into like a metaphorical magic, for lack of a better term, empowering her. But I'm so want to know what's actually happening because again, it's like, well, Chula gets visions and her mother's a healer, and they imply Echo's going to have super strength, and then we see the flashbacks, and it's like we don't really see again like the sports thing to like win who's going to stay on the land, and the one defending their home from like the weird um bandit guys. uh there's never an implication of like them using powers to do that so much as it's
no.
guidance. Like again, to make another Star Wars comparison, like they seemingly all have like a use the force Luke moment
Yeah,
where it's like trust your instincts, follow the guiding nature of the supernatural force. And then you come back to explicit healer, explicit clairvoyant, who's like having visions of potential futures. It's what it's implied to me, at least. And again, like it's been a bit since I watched the premiere. But as you watch it all in one sitting, which again is kind of muddies the waters. It's the give and take of all of this. But the manifestation of the powers is something that like I really wish we had next episode to explore, because if it was your heritage, like this manifests in like different powers for different people in our lineage from time to time, but like everybody can call on their memory and everybody can call on their spirit in times of need. That's really cool. And if even if they were like, yeah, like it made you strong enough to like pry a train off of your leg, and also you can call on them when you need them the most, and then it also gives Echo the ability to like project Fisk back into the day he killed his father, with like the rabbit in a snowstorm wall. And it just again it was a little unclear, and I don't know if it was a ambiguity, and if it was a we're going to leave this up to interpretation that was intentional. Like it felt kind of messy and all over the place. And it's a shame because again, like I think there's a lot of emotional punch packed into this show, and I really appreciate it. It's just like you said, I wish there was an extra episode in there to like explore what these powers, not only how they work, but what they mean, you know, because you start to touch on it in Echo's like mini memory gauntlet, where she does the whole like, you know, it's the ray of sunlight and and like all of them are you and you are all of them. Like again, like you get a beautiful mission statement there, but I would love to see Echo like I would like us to get to see her fully understand what that means, you know, putting those powers in effect to then crank it up a notch to handle Fisk. But that is truly like one of my very few complaints. You know, I think that other than that, like
it's literally my only complaint.
Yeah, that I was like really happy with the show.
Wrong with anything else.
You know, I think that, you know, and that's another thing I wanted to touch on because like I'm coming off the heels of watching Blue Beetle for our like what happened to the DCEU episode. And I think we are living through a renaissance of comic book families. I think that because so many of like the big name heroes have the I lost a parent or I am orphaned origins, that because we've made our way through them now, and like you don't need to show Spider-Man's origin story, you don't need to show Batman or Superman's origin story, we collectively culturally know, you know, that it is, as it has always kind of meant to be, become like a cultural like shorthand, like a fairy tale. Like we all culturally know the story of like Rapunzel or Snow White or King Arthur. Like we just know like certain beats as they exist. You know, we know about pulling the sword from the stone. We know about Martha Wayne's pearls hitting the pavement. We don't need to like keep depicting that. And now that
the sword in the stone, by the way, it was a lady in the lake.
No, you know what I mean.
If you're going to tell the story of my people, then my history.
My apologies for flattening your culture, Mitch.
Yeah.
But
it's one of the very few things the English have as a culture. Thank you very much. Do not rub us off that.
You're right. But again, maybe I'm disproving my own point that I don't know that much about King Arthur. I was just picking a prolific myth out of the air.
History, fact, I'll tell you.
But like my point stands. It's like we understand these beats culturally. Yeah. And because that now that like all of them are developed, it's like, okay, now that people for the most part trust these stories, we can venture into these newer characters, these characters that haven't gotten that exposure. So when you get to meet the Reyes family, they soar because this is a new dynamic. When you get to meet the Khans, it soars. It works so well because you get again, like, and I point to the Khans and I point to the Reyes as these like stellar, just like tour de forces of chemistry between these actors. And you get that again here. And what I love about it is that it is with a family that is kind of broken, that adds to that chemistry in many ways. Because not only do you get to see them come back together, you get to see how they are also disparate from each other, but still care very much. And it was a really fascinating dynamic. And I love the comic book family renaissance we're experiencing right now. And I think it's only going to get better come time for Batman Brave and the Bold. I think that like if there is any time to pull the trigger on just having a Bat family, now's the time. Now's the time.
I love how you're talking about comic book families and how it's the kind of the thing at the minute. And then your first thing, it's a good time for with the Batman. It's like we literally have the comic book family coming up.
Well, yeah, obviously, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a foregone conclusion that's already coming.
Yeah, I just found it funny.
I'm just saying that with like we don't know anything about Brave and the Bold. I'm just saying like that is a gold mine.
We know nothing about Fantastic Four.
Well, we know that they're going to be in it, which is right there. That's my logic, at least.
I mean, they might not be. You never know.
Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Ben Grimm, and Johnny Torch are not.
It could just be 4 Reed Richards. We don't know.
Johnny Torch. It's my new favorite member of the
Great name.
Fantastic Four,
Great
Johnny
name.
Torch. But no, I do really love the family dynamic. I love the way it's played. But again, I think that's another thing you get in that sixth episode, or that fifth, becoming 6 episodes in total, episode is showing the family coming back together.
Yeah.
Because, Echo and Chula, that conversation they have does not end on good terms.
No.
So I think like creating a situation where like they do have a full-fledged conversation, you allow like maybe that again, what we consider the 5th episode or the 4th episode going into a new 5th episode, and like like the spirit of her mother's showing her like this new suit that Chula made for her. She she's looking at it, and then Chula comes in and goes, "I made this for you," and then they explain that, and then she understands, oh, like you are trying to embrace me despite the way that you slighted me as a child. And then you get to bring what is it, Bonnie was her friend's name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you get to bring Bonnie into the fold, and then you get to let them reconcile a little bit. So it's like, oh, we're beginning to rebuild this family for them to then be abducted by Fisk, as there's been more of an exploration about what those powers represent. You could even go full hokey. You can go full Pollyanna and be like, Echo is now getting stronger because she is more in tune with her family again.
Yeah.
And then let that raise the stakes, and then Bonnie and Chula are abducted by Kingpin, and then she has to go rescue them.
Yeah.
And now granted, I think that takes away, again, it's kind of a trade-off here, where now you lose the idea that she did try to leave. But I think you rope that into like her trying to leave, and then Chula or Bonnie or somebody else is like, listen, this is going to take work from everybody involved, but we want to make this situation right. And if you go out on your own, as capable as you are, it's you against Fisk's army. And eventually he's going to pull out a trick and a card that you're not prepared for. So I think you could also then double down on her learning to trust her family and take that leap of faith as well. That's off the top of my head how I would add an episode in, and kind of recontextualize the final act here. And I think that would like pad out a little more how breakneck that last episode is, because again, like I felt like
barely 30 minutes.
Yeah, I felt like I was 10 minutes in and like Fisk was already getting his ass beat. Yeah. And it was like it felt bizarre. It felt truly bizarre. Also, kudos to this show for not trying to pretend Fisk was dead.
Yeah.
Like because again, and I've said before, that is my biggest gripe with Hawkeye. I really like that show a lot. The thing that keeps me from loving it is them trying to keep Kingpin a spoiler. Is them trying to make him a secret. Because
he was in like the poster for like, the first episode. Like he's an outline, he's a silhouette, he's an outline, but he's still there in the background. They tried to hide him by shoving him in your face.
Is he? I don't remember what you're talking about. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't remember.
There's like a post for Hawkeye. Like there's a skyline, and like he's the top half of his silhouette is the skyline.
Hawkeye.
Certain of it. Either I just made that up in my head and I had this weird memory, or that thing exists.
Like the floating head poster?
It might be. Hold on.
I see what you're talking about, but I don't think that was out until the show had finished.
No, it was before.
Was it before?
Yeah, I'm certain.
Elena's on the poster too, and they tried to hide her as well.
Or is it that one? Or is there another one?
Because I see what you're talking about, but I think this is like I think this was towards the end. Because I'm looking at the character posters too, and it has like the spiral with the Christmas lights, and that still does not have Kingpin in the background. But they telegraph him so much anyway. You know, like you hear Vincent D'Onofrio, Maya, like what was the point? You know, and I think that because the last 2 episodes tried to like macro dose Kingpin on the audience, you take away from like the tension. I think the show has so much more weight if you're showing Kingpin being this tyrannical force in the narrative. And I do think they missed out on that. And I think it is it is my biggest flaw with Hawkeye. However, how they present Fisk here, sensational.
Oh, he's fantastic in this. This
And
is not to take away from the show because he was fantastic in the show, but like this is Kingpin.
yeah,
It's Kingpin down to a T. And even like the funniest meme, I say meme, it's I've just seen that one tweet about it where people are going like they've recast the hammer that he used.
I haven't seen that before. I almost sincerely did a spit take.
I don't know who noticed that. Like, if that was your tweet, it's fantastic. I actually died. It's a completely different hammer.
It's not me. I didn't know. I had a brief moment where I'm like, I thought it was like a normal hammer. I was like a.
They're two completely normal hammers. They're just slightly different. But then someone's come out here and goes like, it's to show he's trying to trick her into being sentimental. He's like, look, I kept the hammer that I killed my dad with. Like, he's that hammer. But of course, this Kingpin doesn't really care. Like, it's just a hammer he's got. I love that explanation of it. Like, whether it actually is, I don't know, but I just loved it.
I think, I don't know. Maybe it's because when I was a kid, I watched the behind the scenes documentaries for the prequels too many times. That one quote from one quote from Lucas always stuck with me, where he's talking about like villains never think they're the villains, and I was like, that's not true. That's not always true, at least. Like in Anakin's case, he does think he's a hero. He does think he's doing the right. He thinks he's doing the right thing by Padme, but he very clearly, even within the text, knows what he's doing is wrong. You know, and the Emperor cares so much about himself and his longevity and his greed and his desire for power that, like, there's no way he's convinced he's doing the right thing. He just knows he's doing right by himself. All of that to say, I find myself constantly considering, does the villain of a given story believe what they're saying? That has always been something that I've been fascinated by and loved seeing explored in media. Like, do they believe what they're saying? And I love that I don't know by the end with Fisk. I think that Fisk is incapable of a selfless love. And I'm sorry I keep invoking Star Wars here, but if you guys have heard me before, you know that's my MO. It's the way that, again, it's the way that Lucas describes the romance between Anakin and Padme. You know, it is Anakin is not trying to save Padme's life for the sake of like making sure that
it's
she
for him,
lives.
not for her.
He does not want to lose her.
Yeah. And
that is where attachment comes in. That pesky word that a lot of Star Wars fans don't understand what it's meant to represent. It's that people don't understand what attachment means, and that what is meant by that, like you said, it's Anakin's trying to preserve her life for himself because he can't live without Padme. It is not to save Padme's life. And I do think that Wilson Fisk is only capable of selfish love, and he comes by it honestly. But I do think in his mind, he does love Maya in the same way that Anakin does love Padme.
100%, yeah. Because it's why he builds the contact lenses, right? And the whole real interesting way they were getting around him not knowing sign language, and it's like he can hear her and she can read what he's trying to say.
Yeah,
it's for him. It's not for her. It's not. He does love her as a daughter and everything, but he doesn't really, because he's not.
Well, and that's the thing, is that like that love only goes so far. That love only goes so far.
Yeah.
Where like, and again, it's like, this is one of the other things that I wouldn't say is a criticism or a gripe, just something I haven't fully made up my mind on yet. Is the way he snaps at the end with the, like, you know, you'll join me or I'll kill them like I killed your father. Like,
I found that very D'Onofrio Kingpin.
Well, I found D'Onofrio Kingpin. It's the way that he throws it in her face that I'm like, okay, is this somebody whose sense of love can only manifest as possession?
Yeah, I assume so.
Is it only manifest as possession? Um, finally, like hitting their breaking point. Um, or is this the moment that Fisk goes mask off and it reveals that Maya is nothing but a pawn to him? And that's the thing that, like, I'm kind of on the fence about, because I think if it's the former, you flatten his arc down to he was lying the whole time, which I think takes away from the emotional complexity. Like, I took a note. It was so funny because as I was writing it, Maya calls him out for, you didn't even bother to learn sign language for me. And I do love that visual representation of, and I want to find the right words here. Maya's family, even the ones who, you know, want nothing to do with her,
Oh no,
still
silent.
all know sign language and all do their best to accommodate her. Fisk finds a way to accommodate himself and eliminate her disability from the equation. And again, on one hand, it's very convenient technology. It would help people a great deal in the real world.
Yeah.
But like, it's Fisk's application of it that is like, let me just bypass this.
Yeah. Let
You
me get it
know,
out of
let
the
me,
way. Like this isn't an annoyance. Which
it's an annoyance. Let me rely on the fact that you can read my lips
yeah.
and that I can kind of like bullshit my way through ASL. Can we see him do a little bit, you know, in Hawkeye, like in those final moments? He was like, Maya, I love you. We have each other. Where like he does a little bit. He
Yeah, he
does.
has enough to like emotionally manipulate.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That's my sticking point, though, is that for someone like Wilson Fisk, is it an active act of manipulation? And then I'm not saying, I'm not trying to like absolve him of
No.
being a manipulator and like frankly emotionally abusive of Maya. Um because he is. That is inarguable. But I think his motivation becomes more interesting and more complex if again it is like he does not realize it. It is his ego, his narcissism, and this like profound sense of possessive love. Like, it's how he loves Vanessa. You know, it is never about Vanessa's well-being. It is, I can't live without her.
Yeah.
Her presence in my life is the only thing that anchors me. And because I've put this much capital into her existence in my life, I will fall apart at the seams without her. That I think is that I think is the hallmark of D'Onofrio's Kingpin.
See, I don't think he's doing it intentionally.
Okay.
I think he's. I'm not sure. I think you could take it either way. I'm more on the side of he isn't aware, but I don't know if that's because he's clearly on the spectrum, right? Like
Yeah.
This version of Kingpin is a bit spicy in the neurons. I don't know if they're doing it because of that. I can see why they've gone that route and made him like the way they have.
I mean, he's objectively more interesting that way.
100%.
I mean, you know, like Mafia Don, like Kingpin Unleashed is great in the comics, but when you juxtapose him with his like key rival, with like, you know, Catholic guilt, I'm afraid to let anybody in, but I'm so empathic I can't help it, Matt Murdock, juxtaposing him against taking these two people who have lost everything and everyone and are so dedicated to protecting their city, that like Matt Murdock is like intoxicatingly empathic and Fisk is incapable of engaging beyond possessive love. That like those two things meld so well together as like a juxtaposition between hero and villain. So no, I do agree with you that this take on the Kingpin is like the best version of it. And again, we've seen Mafia Don Kingpin work all the time. Michael Clark Duncan is the like arguably the only good
He
part
was
of the
a high
Daredevil.
bar. It was
He
a
was,
high bar pass.
I mean, no, but again, that's what I'm saying. Like his performance in like smooth, kind of intimidating by virtue of charisma, and influence. Michael Clark Duncan Fisk, animated Fisk, video game Fisk, hell, even into the Spider-Verse Fisk. You know, like you gotta look, that's kind of a marriage of all of them. Of like, you know, obviously it's that possessive love that is like allowed him to make permissions for himself to make reality cave in on itself to get them back. But it's also that like mafia don suaveness that characterizes his that Liev Schreiber's performance. You know? So yeah, I really did like Kingpin in this. I thought D'Onofrio's performance you know, just soared. And again, it's the little things. Like I said, I was making a note of like Fisk refuses to learn sign language. He would rather hire an interpreter he knows he has to execute.
Which is really interesting because obviously now they've come out and said that the Netflix stuff is canon, right?
Yeah, like they put it in.
Never been a doubt, but it's now it's on Disney Plus. It's there in blue and white because it's not black. Like it's there. It's not making an argument anymore. He doesn't learn sign language, but he will very easily learn Mandarin for like Madame Gao. Was it Madame Gao in Daredevil? Yeah, like for the business side of things, he will learn Mandarin, like one of the hardest languages. He won't learn ASL. Like,
that is a very fun wrinkle. That is a very fun wrinkle. I just think
it adds to it.
It does add to it. You know, there's a part of my brain goes into the reflexive, and I know you're not doing this. Part of my brain goes into the reflexive like cinema sensification of things, where it's like, oh, he learned this, but he didn't learn that. Why is that? This is a problem. Yeah. Where part of my brain immediately goes to like, well, how do you know he didn't just pick it up by working with Madame Gao for so long? In the same way that he does pick up a little bit of sign language. Yeah. But Fisk is also fluent in Mandarin. Yeah. There are scenes where he is holding entire conversations speaking Mandarin very
because
fluently.
something like an actual language. I say actually not to. I'm going to retract the actual bit there. To learn something like Mandarin, you have to know the culture. You can't just
a spoken language. Spoken
language. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like you need to learn the culture and how people actually talk it with that. Like I don't know why I say I don't. I assume it's similar, but not. But it's not an easy thing. You don't just do it overnight.
No.
Especially
and there's
also
also a lot of
one
nuances.
of the hardest languages to learn.
There's so many nuances with ASL. Again, I do not claim to know it. I know a decent amount of people who do. I know I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I do know that there's a lot of like, you know, sometimes you got to freestyle a word because like,
isn't there something like there's no the in ASL?
I don't know.
I'm not sure if like
for you.
So I know there's American. I think it's English. I'm not sure if it's ESL or if we call it something else. But I remember seeing that there's no sign for the, which I found really interesting because you're just trying to think of it how you say a sentence without the in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he puts more effort into the business side of things than he does for personal.
Yeah, but I think that's also a fascinating. There's another implication that comes on the back of that is why he's trying so hardly to fold Maya into the business end.
Yeah.
Is that that's the world he controls, and therefore, if he controls her, he can protect her. That again, and I don't want this to come across as like absolving or doing apologia for Kingpin, but like you can track his logic. You know, faulty and unfair and cruel as it may be, you can track where he's going.
But that's what makes a good villain, right? If you can slightly track it, like you go back to Thanos. Not saying that Thanos was right, because I think if anyone says Thanos was right, they're anyway. But like you know, you can see where he is coming from. You can understand what he's trying to get. Like yes, what he want his end goal. Yes, that's kind of what everyone should be like, right? You don't want the universe to collapse in on itself under whatever. How he gets there, the methodology of it, yes, that's the bad part. Right? That's where you shouldn't track the logic 100%. Like, you can do the same with Kingpin. It's like, yes, you understand why he's doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah, you can understand the
But
point A to point B. It's when we get into, oh, and they were right because of it. I had a conversation about this with one of my coworkers recently, about how one of the things that drives me crazy about the Thanos was right crowd is that the very big sticking point that always gets skipped over is that Thanos is correct asterisk about scarcity and resource management. And this isn't so much to, again, cinema sense, why didn't you just double the resources? Because he kind of says, like, because people will get opulent and then they will consume more because there is more.
also because you can't make something out of nothing, so that entire thing is flawed.
But there's that, of course, too.
Mm.
But the thing with Thanos is that, like, he has his end goal in mind. He's retroactively building a bridge to get to it and justify it.
Yeah.
Is it Thanos wants to exact this level of control over reality? He wants to become like this regent of the universe, and frame himself as this messiah of, oh, I did it, and then I used the stones to destroy the stones because I'm a fair and merciful God.
Mm.
That, like, it is all about him getting to know that he shaped reality more than anybody else ever could.
Yeah.
And it is him being a violent, murderous lunatic that, like, he is retroactively building a argument to arrive at the conclusion he wants. He is moving backwards. He did not go, oh, well, resources are finite, things are finite. Well, how are we going to do this? Oh, maybe if I cull half of people everywhere, then this can be a thing. It's
And then it's
no.
also that, well, look, their way didn't work, so I guess I'm right. No.
Yeah, he retroactively built a again, it's not right, but it is coherent, and it does follow an A to B to C of resources are finite, people are consuming too much. Because they're consuming too much, like, people are going to suffer and die as civilizations, the multiverse or the universe across, collapse in on themselves. Therefore, if I eliminate half of life, that won't happen. I will slow this process, and because there's half of the people, they will have to learn to manage it.
Yeah.
He built that after the fact because a Thanos, like almost a decade younger, is already all about the Infinity Stones and doing some stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of see him adopt that idea in real time in Endgame, and I think the same is true here with Kingpin. Is that, like, I think there is, you can follow that logic. It's not correct, but you can follow it. You can see where he's going and how he's got there. But there
It's
was a
also
cool,
a good comparison to make because I feel like they're going to give Kingpin a very similar arc. Obviously, they come out and say, "Oh, the Kingpin's the Thanos of the street level Marvel." Like, so obviously, we're going to get like a street level end game going on at some point.
oh
I
god,
can
I
see
hope
them
so.
doing a very similar thing with Kingpin in New York, and so obviously we now know he's going to run for mayor. Which
Yeah,
I'm
I
going
was
to
really
say it. I was surprised he didn't do that in the 5 years. I can't understand why they don't want to do that because they want to go backwards. They don't want to double back on themselves. And you want
I
the current.
understand that. I also think that, like, I think that Fisk was probably trying to put out fires on his end as well.
Mm. Do we know if Fisk was around in the 5 years? Because
Well,
obviously the flashback confirms that Daredevil was. Actually, no, he
well,
must have
if
been there
Fisk
because
was able
didn't
to
he?
put the hit on Maya's father, then he had to be.
Then yeah.
If
You're
Fisk was
right.
able to create a situation where he knew Ronan would attack that group of tracksuits,
Yeah, he's obviously around then because that's when, right? Yeah.
he needed to be in charge. So I think that Fisk was probably trying to put out fires and establish himself in, like, a reforged underground.
Mm.
And I do like the idea that, you and I both, we don't care much for Secret Invasion. However, Ken Knapsack, the great Ken Knapsack, um, he kind of went for a bat to it, went to bat for it, uh, on Anytime, his new talk show with my dear friend Alden Diaz, and he was talking about like he gave a very sound defense of Secret Invasion, talking about how it is very much an exploration of like post Trump, post COVID American politics.
Mm.
And the sense of paranoia that comes with that, and how like it is not too dissimilar from like Patriot Act era American
Yeah.
politics. But there is this sense of like you don't know what to trust, because every time you turn on the TV, you open your phone, there is somebody telling you a bold-faced lie with more confidence than you can comprehend.
Mm.
And you just don't know like what is somebody's agenda, what is their motivation. Again, I have my issues with Secret Invasion and I maintain them. However, I do like that exploration, and I think a very interesting next step in that is Fisk running for mayor. Is because again, if you look at Fisk running for mayor, if you listen to the way that news anchor in the post credit was talking about,
we need a brawler. We need someone who's going to stand up.
We need a brawler. We need someone who's going to stand up. We need some, the left and the right don't know what they're doing. We need somebody who's going to come in and just kind of like wreck shit. That's the way people were talking about Trump in 2015.
Yeah.
That's the way whenever he was initially running, the beginning of his campaign, people were like, well, here is what people will find appealing about him. Is that he is this again, you cannot call him an outsider with a straight face. You know anything about the world. You cannot convince me that a billionaire real estate magnate is an outsider of society and civilization in any way. But like that whole idea of like he's outside of the political elite, at least. And because he does not have all of these things, that is what makes him this incredible candidate to meet this specific moment. Like, again, I have not come around on Secret Invasion necessarily, but some of my indictments of it have softened a little bit using that framing that Ken used. And again, it's not like I didn't see what it was going for. But the way he explained it, I was like, okay, I buy it more hearing your explanation. I think that Fisk running for mayor is like the next step of that. And now here comes this gajillionaire, opportunist who wants to, use this political clout as their next step to some type of domination. And I really do like how they set the table for that and the specific circumstances. Because like you said, I do think there is a legitimate question of why is this only now crossing his mind as an option?
I assume we'll get it in Born Again.
Yeah.
No, it's obviously more of a Daredevil thing, but I'm sure we'll get that.
But that framing though of we need a brawler, we need this, we need that, we need Trump. That being the moment that Fisk is like, I got your number. Because I can be that.
It's going to be interesting.
And didn't he? It's been. I haven't watched Daredevil season 3 since literally the pandemic.
He was doing something in one of the seasons.
He was involved in government because he has like the security detail.
Yeah. So I was literally about to bring that up because he was all over the news at the end of it. There's a massive thing about how he's just been uncovered as the kingpin of crime because no one knew who Kingpin was.
But so like I said, I love Deco. Structured in a deeply bizarre way. But again, it's not too dissimilar from the other Disney Plus stuff. It's just weird that it happens like this.
It feels like something was cut, and I will put money on there being like a whole memory gauntlet thing somewhere in some Disney vault, and it fixes everything. But for one reason or another, they didn't want it. Memory gauntlet. Just don't trademark it. I can't afford to use it. No, pay.
I'll loan it out to you.
Yeah,
I don't think I could trademark it because Sean made a joke that it got brought up in a meeting.
Yeah, but if he brought it up after you, then that's.
Then I may have handed that over to the Walt Disney Corporation free of charge.
So in fact, you didn't copyright it, so therefore it's like, yes, it's no public domain, I guess.
But yeah, no, I
Unfortunately
really
for you,
enjoyed
you missed the
Echo.
trick there.
Yeah,
No, I enjoyed Echo.
I
I'm
got to
looking
Steamboat
forward
Willie
to.
that shit.
That's two S words. God damn. At least
I'm sorry.
two S and an F. No, I enjoyed
Shut
Echo. I'm
up,
looking more.
pegging. Leave me
Pegging.
alone.
You peg up the laundry, didn't you? That's fine.
Oh my talk. Just say what you were gonna say.
I can't remember now. I got pegging on the brain. Yeah. Anyway,
Man,
I
this is
enjoyed
a
Echo.
video show, but I wish y'all could have seen my face. Wow.
I mean, I was going to download the video, but I'm not going to. Then you got the spit take reaction. That was great.
I did. This is proof
Yeah.
that Comic needs to go back to video.
Yeah, I need to sort my little office out before that happens. I've been saying for like 5 years. I need to sort it out and like
You do.
get rid of
I
one.
want to see your handsome face on TNAP and on
I
this.
get rid of one box and I get 5 more. I'm in that situation.
Armin has such a nice button-down collection now, thanks to me spreading it to him by contagion. So
Is Roosevelt just like an STI? Is that what's going on?
Basically,
Yeah.
the way it spreads from me, it may as well be
Like a shirt transmitted infection? No. Can't monetize that YouTube. I said shirt. If you do, it's racism because of the accent. But yeah, I look forward to seeing more where they take Echo and Electro Cox. Because she honestly surprised me. Like I liked her in Echo, not in Echo. I liked her in Hawkeye, but you could tell it was like her first acting thing. And I feel like in this, I know she wasn't bad in Hawkeye by any means, but like in this, I feel like she stepped it up. And they made the hurdles with the whole sign language and getting around that. Because I thought that was going to be an interesting way. Like, how do you present a show like that and keep people engaged? Because people don't, especially in the world looking at phones. You look at a phone, you miss a subtitle.
Yeah.
Oh, you're done.
Yeah.
But I heard something that they didn't do a great job with showing the sign language. They didn't show all the space that ASL uses on the body. I can't remember exactly what was saying, but I remember seeing someone say it wasn't the best representation of it. And there are some times where it's obscured. I can't remember exactly
I will say
where,
no. That is fair. You are right that that is something that didn't occur to me until now. That like most times I see people actually signing like it kind of like is like the whole body is in play. Where here there was a lot of like very close in the chest stuff happening. But yeah, like I said, it is groundbreaking. Like it is.
Yeah, it's
like,
it's a first step. It's never going to be perfect off the bat.
Yeah, and I don't want to like. I do not want to ingratiate like the fandom menace, like, oh, look at all these boxes these liberals are checking with the representation here. But like, this is incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Like if there was ever an argument to be made that these stories are made for one specific demographic or another, like that was like the Echo's existence in the narrative is truly just that it is a net positive for representation. And again, I do think representation in and of itself is good. Like, we can talk about stories that, that don't work for us. And I think it's important to meet stories where they're trying to be and put in that work as the audience. There are stories, there are narratives brought to us that are deeply representative, that may fall short in whatever way, and that can be indicted on its own. But like putting this to screen, fantastic. Like just like I do think it was a sincerely bold move by Marvel Studios, and I do think it paid off.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully, it's not going to be too long before we see more of the character.
Yeah,
the characters. I assume Daredevil, but
there's
18 episodes. You can fit. You can fit everyone.
Wait, and let me just say as well, the Daredevil fight specifically. We haven't talked a lot about like the action.
It was nice that he got hit and got back up.
I liked seeing him. I liked seeing. I like the way that fight went a lot.
Yeah.
I like that they don't linger on it too long. But I love that moment where he goes to do what he clearly thought would be a move that would incapacitate Maya by trying to fuck up her leg. Sorry, to try to bust her leg up, and then went
Yeah.
ping, and he was like, "Whoa!" Again, they didn't linger on it. They didn't linger on it. They didn't play it for laughs. You know,
No,
there
no.
was like they just played it straight of Matt
He
having to
also
go.
didn't do that. How do they communicate? Like, why is she not talking and he's asking her stuff? That everyone keeps going on at the minute.
I haven't seen that, but I'm not
Oh,
surprised.
because there's the whole thing of he's blind, even though he's not really blind. He can see. Like,
Yeah,
it's just a
yeah,
different way.
he has his Daredevil sense, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like he can't see what she's trying to say because she's deaf, so she uses ASL. Like, how is that gonna work? And everyone's like, it needs to. It's what's the one? It's the no shit Sherlock thing with Downey and Cumberbatch. People with like IQ of -3 always wanted. It's like when these two on screen, you have to have this. Like, no, you don't have to have it.
I would like the record to reflect that I was one of those people, and I stole that joke from this YouTube channel.
I would like it to be known that
You were not
it
around
was
yet.
probably not from me.
Yeah, it was pre you.
I'm
It was
also,
definitely pre you.
I'm also not surprised that you are one of those people. We were all 12.
I
once.
was. I have a lot of opinions that have evolved.
I said was. It's fine. No, I brought into the Thanos Infinity Stone thing at one point and then realized that it doesn't work. And yeah.
What?
You know where every stone was like a letter in Thanos? And people scrambled for an N for the Eye of Agamotto, and he just went necklace. And then like the Soul Stone ended up being like her or something like that. It just did not work in this life. It's like you can't say her because her's Aisha or whatever her name is in Guardians, the Suffering Girl.
That's really funny. That. I vaguely remember
boiling down
that.
good. Like it wasn't even her who was the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone was just like there.
That's really
fandom's
funny.
Dumb. That is the lesson of that. Fandom is just dumb.
It's dumb, but it's important because community is important. You just got to make sure that community.
I guess. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed Echo. If not, it's your problem, I guess. I thought it was a good show. Jared thought it was a good show. It's mostly positive from everything I've seen so far, but some small structural issues. But hey,
and again, it's one of those things where it's like I don't even know if it's an issue so much as it's like I don't understand why we did it like this.
No, that's fair. Yeah,
you know, you tell the story that you need to tell, and people will have opinions about it, and that's okay. Like it's just one of those like I'm still scratching my head, but again, it was still beautiful. It was great.
It doesn't take away enough, so hey,
exactly.
There you go. It's all good. So yeah, I have no idea what's coming out next. I know it's a Star Wars show because Marvel's kind of tumbleweeds this year.
Let me look it up.
It's not the Acolyte, is it?
Acolyte's coming this year, but they have not said when, and I'm dying because I need it. I'm looking. I think X-Men. No, that's not. This list is so incorrect. Never mind. I was like X-Men.
It's really bad. You said X-Men. I had no idea what you were talking about. I had to really look for 92 in my head. That show's so not on my radar.
Oh, dude, I can't wait for it. But anyway, we'll be back to talk about stuff for sure.
Yeah, there'll be something, I'm sure.
You guys will have me back to hear me just squeal about how much I love the Acolyte.
What if it's bad, though?
It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be.
But what if? Ponder the question. What if? What if the show?
I have not seen season 2 of What If yet because it came out like while I was at my busiest for holiday stuff because working in retail will do that to you. I am excited to catch up on it eventually.
Have you finished Invincible yet?
No, I think I'm just gonna wait till it's all out and binge it.
Oh, you absolute cuck. God damn it. I've never used that word seriously.
End the episode there.